natural?
These are just wild blackberries. Just they grow along where they get any water from creek beds and things like that. Yeah, they're just naturally sweet. You have to wait till they really ripe. If there's any red in them at all, they're not sweet. But once they get to the black completely to the stem, then they're really, really naturally sweet. A lot of sugar. I know the American Indian used to get these things and they'd dry these things and have food in the wintertime from blackberries and different berries that they grow along the creek bottoms. But this year they're good, really sweet. A lot of blackberries they get real big. The big ones, they get shiny. And they're hard to get to because there's a lot of thorns. You really earn these guys when you pick them. They're hard to get to and lots and lots of thorns. But it's worth it. We get a bunch of them and freeze them back in the winter, in the summertime. Then we'll have them in the winter, and they're good to bring out of the freezer and put on ice cream. Vanilla ice cream with these things on them are really good. You don't even have to sugar them. They're sugar enough. If the season is right, you get enough rain in the wintertime. We're at about 2,400 foot altitude here. It seems to be a good altitude for blackberries. And they grow along the creek bottoms where they get water. Nobody planted them, they just come here naturally. And about this time of year, every year I come down here and pick enough blackberries to make a lot of blackberry juice, blackberry on ice cream. Just plain old bowl of blackberries is good. If you're preserve them a little bit, you put some sugar in them and freeze them up. I can pick buckets and buckets full of these things. They're just really plenty of, you can see that a lot of them here. They're just all over the place. And you can come here one day, pick all the ones that you can see that are ripe, and come back a couple days later, and the ones that weren't ripe before are now getting ripe. There's a lot of little guys that are just starting to turn. If they come off real easy, if you have to pull them out, if you have to pull hard, they're not ripe. And if you have to pull hard, you squash them. So if you just give them a little tug and they come off, they're ripe and ready to go. The sun gets really hot up here in the summertime, and if these berries didn't have enough rain in the wintertime, the berries get out and the sun will dry the moisture out of them. They're just turning into little raisins. But this year, because we had good rains, late rains, you can see they're thick in here. They're just everywhere. And a lot of ones, about a week from now, these will be big and ripe. So you come back and you pick them, and ones you can find, you earn every single one of them because there's thorns everywhere. And sometimes you go home and pick thorns out of your fingers because they're really sharp. They break off real quick, so it's not something everybody would like to do, but to me it's worth it.
So give me a rough idea of the season, the months that they...
Well, this is July.
Right, late July.
Early July. They blossom late June and blossom into July. In fact, there's still some place you still see some blossoms. I saw a few yesterday. I was down here picking yesterday, and there was a place that had blossoms, which are really late. But these, 2 weeks ago, these weren't even beginning to be ripe. So we've had some hot days, which makes for perfect if they aren't here too long. If they get here too long, then they dry up. So you got to catch them when you see they're shiny. When they're ripe like that and they're shiny, that's when they're really sweet. That is a berry. That's a perfect berry.
Let me get a close-up of that. Okay.
Just like that. See how shiny it is?
That's a perfect berry?
Perfect berry.
Okay.
Not real big, but big enough. If you get enough of them, makes good blackberry juice. Mix it in with some other kind of juices, and maybe make blackberry wine out of them. It's good stuff. But you got to strike while the iron's hot, because It won't be long, they'll be gone.
So you're estimating like 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now, they probably will be pretty well gone.
And how long have you been picking them?
I started 3 days ago.
Okay.
This is Friday, so I started Wednesday, and I got a few in here, just picking them up. And you stand down here about maybe half hour, 45 minutes, and you get about up to here, which is enough. You're tired of picking by then, and you got enough spots in your hand that are bleeding from thorns, and you go home and wash them up, put them in the ice box or refrigerator, and then in the evening when you're sitting around about 10 o'clock at night, and you get the strawberries out or the blackberries out, and you get some ice cream and have some white vanilla ice cream with these on them. Oh, it is nothing better than that. Good stuff. Okay, you can see the difference in color. You got a shiny one here. That means it's ripe. These are shiny, but they're red, and they won't come off. And if they're, see a little bit of red on this, and it's really not totally sweet yet. In another day or so, these will be all black and ripe. But the ones that are pretty obviously, you just give them a little tug, and if you tug them on, they don't come off and not really ripe. But these are, you can see the black ones here, they're really ripe. And sweetened up natural sugar. People come from all around the hills around here to pick blackberries. And it won't be long before these are discovered and they'll be picked. Of course, I'm getting them as fast as I can, but I won't get them all. I won't have time to do all of them. But and you got to share these things. They're thick. Well, you can see right here. There's lots and lots of them. No way you can get them all.
So you said you've never made blackberry wine yourself?
No, I'd like to try it sometime. It's probably pretty good. The natural sugar in it that I imagine it's sort of like making grape wine, I imagine.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same idea. Get enough of them, put them in a big vat, and get your bare feet and stomp around on them. You'd have juice all over the place. It's obvious. Whoops. Stepped in a hole.
So how was the season last year? I mean, was it?
Last year was bad. We didn't have enough late rains, and the sun got hot real quick. We've had some hot weather here. In fact, here's one that the sun is starting to dry out. It lost some of its shininess. Still sweet, still good, but another day or so it'll be too far gone. A couple years ago, I was down here picking blackberries. I picked a whole bucket full like this, plumb full. I've been walking around, and I was walking toward the house. I was watching for some more, and I looked down while I'm walking, and there's a rattlesnake sitting right on the ground right in front. I would have stepped on it if I hadn't looked down. So instead of walking across it, I jumped and spun and emptied this whole tub of blackberries in a big circle on the ground around me. Spent about an hour and a half picking them, and I emptied the bucket completely because I didn't want to get bit. So I kind of expect to see a snake, but wearing these high top boots kind of helps. If you get bit, at least you have a chance of not getting bit bad. But there's always that chance. Rattlesnakes are here. You just learn to live with them. That's part of why I live here, because things are natural. I can't imagine living anywhere else for me, but I can go out and this is my supermarket right here. Pick all the berries I want.